Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive roster drama continuing to go down over the last 24 hours, with Aspas potentially leaving Leviatan now on the table after just one season with the team. Seemingly the star player not happy with the way that things have gone behind the scenes and is exploring his options to go elsewhere. Lots of other intriguing things on the day as well. Very much interested in your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you are new as always. Just to make it very clear, this is a joke. There are still some things going around that are not necessarily true, so keep an eye out for that, but there are certainly some things today which are true and we shall get into. Now, a conclusion to the Job Life versus Mal saga. This is exactly the conclusion that I expected, which is basically Riot saying, well, unlucky guys, and trying to justify it in some way. If you guys haven't seen the story over the last couple of days, Job Life were one round away from qualifying from the Ascension playoffs, and they didn't win that round, largely because one of their players was disconnecting from the Mal series and they were not allowed to bring a substitute in to replace that player, even though the rules, we're pretty sure, say that they could. The referee clearly messed up big time on this one. Obviously, LAN would be nice as well, but I guess they can't afford that. So they come out with, they say after a thorough review, it was decided that the referee's response was consistent with the rule set, although I'm not so sure if that's actually true, and it's quite fascinating to see this. I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like many people feel the same way. It's pretty incredible how community notes came through with a dagger here, because Riot's come out with their explanation and say, well, unlucky, like, yeah, you could have had a sub, but you actually couldn't because the rulebook says you can't because of a certain, like, time limit on making that happen. But actually, the data does not back that up, right? And even they get completely clowned by the community notes that say, this statement is factually false. Riot Games alleges that the rules were not broken by the admin, but if you look at these tweets, you can see that Riot Games' own rulebook for the tournament says otherwise. So this is the key tweet to really note here, that in the rulebook dated the 21st of August 2024, right, to the most recent one, it says, teams will be granted a maximum of 1 pause for an emergency situation per map in a match for a maximum aggregate of a total of 10 minutes across the match. If a team requires more than 10 minutes of player emergency pauses, then the players using the player emergency pauses will become ineligible to continue playing and must be substituted. So, you know, basically saying, look, you've got to sub out that player and you are able to do exactly that. In the event that a player disconnects during a map and is unable to return within the allocated pause time, the team will be permitted to replace them with a substitute from their roster. The lobby will need to be remade. The game reverted to the previous state. So as the rulebook says, anything over 10 minutes is considered to be, you know, a substantial delay, and therefore they're eligible to make a change. And as we see here, all these tech pauses, they added up to 25 minutes worth of delay. So, you know, I don't know. It seems pretty clear to me they should have been able to make a change. Somebody messed up somewhere, and Riot are going to basically come out with their explanation to say, well, like, unlucky guys. And that was the expected response. It's just really, really tough for all parties here involved. So that is going to conclude with the final 4 teams over the coming days. Let's talk Rostermania though. Gen.G Fortinho is gone. He's exploring options elsewhere. Hoodie is gone, unrestricted at the end of September, looking for options elsewhere. Rumour has it they're looking to bring Westside into their roster, right? So Gen.G's making a couple of changes. That will certainly continue over the coming days. Moist Shopify as well. All of those guys are potentially up for grabs. Marder, who I think is a very solid player, he's open to any region as a duelist, looking for a team as a free agent. And same thing for Brook, a restricted free agent. Same thing for Flyer, definitely a notable player here after, you know, kind of his just all-round ability, certainly as an in-game leader as well, and any role. Like, Flyers, maybe at the end of the year, didn't have the greatest conclusion to the season, but definitely a player that I think I would be looking at if I'm many a team around the world. Vic as well, same story, restricted free agent, so that seems to be happening for those boys. This is another interesting update to this kind of leaker here. Now, he said the other day that this player Zeus was effectively going to be joining Fnatic, and Fnatic's team manager says false, that's not true. But as I said at the time, that doesn't necessarily mean they're not considering that player. Fnatic just denied that he had signed with them. So, you know, this leaker here does have still some, like, you know, credibility, because there's been leaks in the past that he's got right, even though the most recent one was denied by Fnatic themselves. And there's now rumours that Na'Vi are looking at Durka and Hero. So, well, look, this may not happen, and he's only saying that they're interested in these players, so this may not even come close to being true. But nonetheless, it's interesting, so I thought I might as well point it out. Speaking of Fnatic, a big change as well confirmed with Mini gone from the team. Of course, we saw that last season, Mini wanted to kind of step away from being the head coach all the time, eventually ended up in kind of like an assistant coach role for the season, and has decided, though, at the end of the year, he does want to take, you know, proper break from coaching, grow his stream, grow his Patreon, and actually relax a bit more than he's been capable of doing over the last couple of years. So, yeah, he's going to be leaving Fnatic Valorant, wishing him the best going forwards. I know that Boaster and many others are going to be missing him, right? Because, you know, Boaster in the replies was definitely talking about that and saying, yeah, he'll be missed on the roster. Somebody that's also going to be missed, you would think, from Loud is going to be Sadak, because this is now a done deal. Sadak is not going to be on Loud going into next season as it stands. This was an interesting suggestion that Sadak to a team like Paper Rex could be quite fascinating, but that's not going to happen. Sadak does his own video talking about the situation here yesterday. He put this up on various social channels, clearly including, well, Twitter as well. I guess, well, he's Argentinian, isn't he? So maybe the ban on the, you know, X access in Brazil is not so relevant. But yeah, he talks about the time on Loud and making it quite clear that, yeah, his time on Loud is over and he's not going to be coming back. He also mentioned, right, that he's reaching a slightly advanced age. I think he's only like 27, 28, but, you know, he's not wrong, right? He's played for a long time, and he says that he hopes he's got, you know, 4 to 5 more years playing, but that will be somewhere else than Loud. Even Sassy was on stream talking about the situation, talking about Sadak's departure, and also mentioning that the possibility of Les departing the team as well. Would they go together somewhere? Maybe that's not impossible. Does Sassy want to get back with Les, want to get back with Sadak on one of these teams? That's maybe a possibility as well. So there's a few very interesting developments right now. The big one, though, for Sadak is him potentially joining Crew. Limbo mentions this yesterday. Bruno Povaleri mentions this yesterday, that Loud has apparently already reached an agreement with Crew Esports to allow Sadak to go their way, but he is still looking at other opportunities, Sadak, because now he's announced that he's available. There should be, understandably, multiple teams around the world looking to bring on one of the greatest IGLs Valorant has ever seen. And, you know, if Crew can get him, that's great for them. And maybe they can form a very competitive team. I think they probably can. That seems to be the most likely outcome. It's not yet guaranteed, but apparently there are advanced negotiations for Sadak to go to Crew for the upcoming season as well. This, again, just to make it clear, you know, Era is just making this up. We don't know what the roster's going to be. But, you know, let's just hypothetically speculate what they might want to do. Could Crew bring in Aspas? Could they bring in Sassy, you know, as a duo to return again? Could they bring Sadak as well? That could be the Loud core with maybe Shy and Kesnet come along. I mean, look, it might not work, it might not be great, but it's interesting, and that's, you know, that's what I'm here for. So obviously there is no source here, this is just made up, but I just wanted to mention it as a possibility for what some of these teams might be considering. The big news, though, really is on Aspas, because rumours again emerging from Bruno Povaleri, maybe not to the massive surprise of many, that Aspas is not so happy with what's happened at Lev. Even at the start of the season, when the drama went down, even back in December, when the team and the coaching staff were in disagreement of what they wanted to do, eventually they made the change with Com coming into their roster, with Noswa going the other way with some degree of drama, and of course at the end of the year, despite a decent result at Champs, were not really what they were looking for, and maybe Aspas not so happy with, you know, the situation with the team. So rumour has it that Aspas is at least evaluating whether staying with Lev actually makes the most sense. And of course Aspas has quite a lot of pull, given he's one of the best players in the entire world, and another team would absolutely be willing to try and get him on their roster as well. So even though that he's got a contract, if another team comes along and says, hey, you know, we can get you, we'll come to an arrangement, then maybe that's what's going to happen, right? So Aspas leaving Lev is now a possibility, it seems, and if he does leave, where might he go? That's when Rocket Bullets comes into play again. Now, just obviously we've got to mention here the Rocket Bullets situation, you know, how reliable is he, all this type of stuff. But to be fair, he's been right on some things before, and he may very well be again. So this is how it stands on the various teams, at least in his opinion. Evil Geniuses, who the hell knows what's going on there. G2, he's pretty sure they might well stick, but I guess we'll see about that. He's been pretty confident for a long time, really, that Sassy is going to be gone from Sen. Now that does seem to be happening. Narrate is the player that's been most linked, really. I mean, he's still on the spreadsheet here. He's on the 100 Thieves spreadsheet as well. I will say, very interesting from 100T that apparently, of all the options for that roster, the most likely is that Cryo is gone, which from an outside perspective would be very surprising actually to me. But yeah, rumour has it that Cryo is not just likely to leave 100T, but he's actually potentially in the conversation with NRG to go there instead. So as it stands, FNS and Som, and presumably you'd think Ethan is likely to stay as well. Demon 1, who knows? Obviously Verno is getting linked, Cryo is now potentially getting linked, so NRG are definitely doing a very few interesting things. Sarek, we know, is now linked to Crew. Sassy, interestingly enough, is now potentially linked to Leviatan, so, you know, his departure from Sentinels might go there. Of course, we've talked about that rumour just because, you know, the Aspas and Sassy thing that Sassy even mentioned himself. But maybe Aspas doesn't stay on Lev, and he's now been linked back to Loud. So this is the Loud situation, why it's very interesting to me, because, you know, we're talking about Cowanzan maybe getting sold out of Loud to another team, Sarak getting sold to Crew, but yet they might have the money or something, or the resources, to still bring Aspas back, and, you know, have Aspas and Pancada, and maybe they keep less, maybe they don't, they're going to need an IGL. Like, you know, it's very interesting, but we've got a few players linked all over the place at the moment, and yeah, Aspas potentially to Loud could make some sense. And that's even what Rocket confirms here himself shortly afterwards. So very much interested in your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.